Hi, welcome everybody. Hey, this is an extreme beginners tutorial. So we're going to have a lot of fun. We're going to dial in on some details here. So basically what I wanted to cover on this video is your water to paint ratio when you're working with your brush and your paints and your water. So a lot of watercolor artists, I think, will always benefit from this if you can just key in on a really important factor in your watercolor. Is it's really important to kind of know how much water and paint you're going to be putting onto your brush, into your brush hairs, and when you're using your paints and your water. This is really crucial because sometimes some watercolor artists, when they're just starting out, they add way too much water and things become like puddles and just really awful looking washes because it's just puddles of water and not too much paint. Some other artists struggle with too much paint and not enough water. So what I'd like to do is just cover right here for just a few minutes, maybe 10, 15 minutes or so. We'll just do a quick video on water to paint ratio for the watercolor artists. And this is, of course, again, an extreme beginners video. And I always mention, if you haven't subscribed, right on the right-hand side below on this video screen, you'll see a subscribe button. Hit subscribe. This way you can get the latest information on watercolor, all the tidbits of information of watercolor that you need to know and learn about as you're learning the watercolor medium. So let's continue on here. So we're talking paint and water ratio when you're working with your watercolors and in your paintings and in your compositions and practice even too. So first, I'll draw a quick, I'll just do a quick swatch here, just a basic square triangle. And what I'll do is, what I have here is my water container with fresh, clean water. I have a sponge, and then here I also have a paper towel. So you can use, what you'll hear me say a lot of times is, let's check off some water. Basically what I mean when I say check off some water is, you'll go into your water container and rinse off your brush, or pick up some water in your brush or rinse off your brush. And then you'll want to check some water off on either a sponge or a paper towel, if you have paper towels or tissues. And you check a little bit of water off, or tap a little bit of water off your brush hairs. Then you might go in and pick up some paint and you'll do your painting, and you'll start working on your washes on your watercolor paper for your painting. So again, you can use a sponge. This is I cut a piece of small sponge here so it fits in on the screen. Or you can use some paper towel, or even often what I usually use is I use a tissue, and I hold the tissue in my hand. So when I'm working with my watercolors, I have a tissue in my hand all the time. And even if I have a palette in my hand, I'll keep some tissues in my hand, bunched up like this, and then I'll hold my palette. And then when I need to check off some water, I just touch the tissue quick and then go in and get some, paint in my palette or here. But I use the tissue a lot. I also use my apron. If you wear an apron when you work, that works too. You rinse off your brush. You maybe tap your apron a little bit you tap your brush on your apron a little bit, and then you go into your paints, and then you go over to the paper. So let's see how this works actually in real life. So I'm using the Prang Oval 16 brush that comes with the Prang Oval 16 set. And then, of course, before we start painting with our Prang Oval set, we always give it a little spritz of water. So let's just add a little spritz of water to our paints there. And then let's just see how it works here. So now, if you're using this size brush, a lot of times you're going to be okay because this doesn't hold a ton of water. But still, it can be a problem. So let's take a look. So here, we're going to do the wrong way. So we're going to practice the wrong way so you can kind of see what you don't want to do. So what we don't want to do is, we don't want to go in and get a whole bunch of water on our brush and then just go right over into the paint and then go over to our paper. That might be a little bit too much water there. So what we could do to get a little better color, let's say you want to use a more of a really rich, beautiful, darker color other than this, you would take your water, rinse off your brush, tap it on a little bit of a sponge or paper towel. You dry off the brush a little bit. Then you go in and get your paint. You can see that's a little more control with the wash, right? I was able to control the wash and almost make like a rectangle here. Up here, it kind of was a little watery and kind of didn't give me as much control as I want. So what I'm saying is basically, if you rinse your brush and then check a little bit of water off your brush hairs, you're going to have more control over your washes. So let's try another color here. Let's rinse off the brush. And again, maybe what not to do. Rinse off the brush, and then what we don't want to do is skip the step of tapping off a little bit of water. So if we just go rinse our brush and go right into the red here and go here, it looks a little bit watery. Maybe this wash is too much water in there. So you'd rather have the control of your brush and say, let's rinse off the brush, check some water off on a paper towel or on a sponge or even on a tissue like this. Then go in and get some paint. And you can see right there, we have a little bit more rich, vibrant, exciting red here. This tends to look a little bit washed, right? A little bit faded looking. Not as much paint. So we got more paint and color, and exciting, rich, exciting, vibrant color from rinsing the brush and then checking off some water. And then we get that rich, vibrant color. If we just go in and rinse off our brush in the water container and we don't check off some water and take off a little bit of water off our brush, then we're going to get this kind of, you can kind of see that it's, it's diluted. It doesn't look as good. This wash looks much better. Same thing with up here. You can kind of see too much water and you get these weird looking puddles. Whereas when you take a little bit of water and check it off your brush, you get more control with your washes. So you can kind of see how I have more control over my wash when I check a little bit of that water off when you're rinsing off your brush in between each time you go in and get your paint. So this is a big breakthrough for some of you, because I know some of you are out there, you're painting and you leave me great comments, and I'm so happy everyone's out there and you're leaving me great comments and kind comments and thanking me all the time, and I really appreciate that so much. And this is my way to return the kindness and the friendliness and the caring, and say, hey, you know what? This is something I really learned quite a number of years ago, and it really helped my watercolors tremendously, and I want you to have that same information. So your brush from the water container, your container of water, before you go into your palette, you definitely want to make a quick pit stop over here and land and then tap off some water, then go in. Yes. Does that make sense? But yes, I understand. Sometimes you're going to want more water. You're going to want to make a lighter wash with lots of water. Well, then you might not need to tap off so much water. But at least understand that when you're doing washes where you need exciting, vibrant color, and you're not looking for maybe a watery, light-looking wash, you need to understand that you need to take some of that water off there. That's really helpful. Does that make sense? Let's try another example over here. Let's take another swatch. I'll draw another swatch here. So this would be, okay, another swatch. Now, sometimes you're going to want a lot of water. Let's go in and pick up some blue. Sometimes you're going to want a lot of water, so you don't even want to check off any water. Maybe it's a sky wash, like that. And then you'll go in and get your water, and you'll just go right in and however, if now at this point, if you're coming down your paper and you're saying, oh, I made a beautiful sky wash, lots of water, you didn't worry about checking off any water because you really didn't need to. You're doing light washes of sky wash, let's say. But then all of a sudden now you need to shift gears and you want to make a dark green for some grass or a mountain or something like that, right? Now you need to go in, rinse off, and check off your water on your paper towel and your sponge or your tissue like this. Then go in and get your green for maybe some grass. And look how great that looks. You can get a nice, beautiful, exciting, rich, dark wash of maybe some grass here or some ocean. Maybe that's an ocean color you might have in there. And you can see how we did that by rinsing the brush and then taking off the water. Because, you know, we can't get that really dark, rich color if we're not checking the water off. So always remember, if you want darker, richer, beautiful, exciting washes, really exciting color, you want to definitely rinse and then take some water off your brush. And I hope this really helps everyone here on this channel. I want you to have the best information possible with watercolor, but I think this is a great way you can kind of see how you can shift gears and get light washes as well as really dark, rich, exciting, darker washes with your paints that are going to serve you well, make your paintings look more exciting and beautiful. If you have some really dark darks and then some lighter lights, mid-tones. So let's keep that in mind. And I always like to just have fun with doing these exercises. So maybe I'll go around with a border here with some red paint. And again, there's nothing wrong with lots of water and flowing down your washes on your paper, right? That's fine. But you do have to remember that if you want some rich, again, exciting, darker tonal values, as we say, tonal values, you have to check off water. Check off the water and just use straight paint right out of your palette like that. And then you can see how good that looks. And we'll do some red. Let's do some orange, maybe. So I checked off some water off my brush to make sure I don't have too much water on my brush. And you can see how good that looks. And again, what I think the tendency is, a lot of watercolor artists, when you're first starting out, your tendency is going to be to add too much water. And then you start to get like a lot of washes that look like this all the time. You know, and you're not able to get these dark, rich colors because you're skipping the checking off of water off your brush and then going in and grabbing your paints from your palette. So I really hope this is just a great small way of saying that if you just do a tiny bit of modifications to your techniques when you're working in watercolor and the way you're processing, the way you're working, you'll find that this little bit of a tidbit of information can really go a long way. So that's what I'm hoping it does. I'm really hoping this goes a long way. You practice it. Maybe you'll do these a couple times, 2-3 times, and see how much more beautiful, exciting, rich color you'll get. If you take the time, you just rinse off your brush and then you check off that water, tap off the water off your brush so that your brush is kind of just damp. Then you go in and you get your color out of your palette and you get some gorgeous dark color. Same thing, rinse off the brush, check off some water, then go into your paint. And you'll be able to get some beautiful rich darks. And you won't have that problem where all your washes kind of look like this, where it's very watery and faded and looking very light all the time. Get those darks in your painting. Make sure you're capturing all those beautiful tonal values, the darks and the lights. Don't forget about the darks, though. And if you need to get those darks in, that's where you have to, again, check off that water, rinse your brush off, take off some water, then go into your palette, grab your color, and then go to your palette. To your painting. Okay? All right, so I hope this is just a great informational tidbit of information for everybody. Thanks so much for coming by, watching my videos. Again, my name is Chris Petri. If this is your very, very first time watching, thanks so much for coming by. I really appreciate it. Thanks so much for subscribing on the right-hand side below. That means you're just going to be tapped into my information every week because I'm making videos every week, week after week, month after month, and year after year. So if you're learning watercolor, keep coming by. Just click subscribe. And you just jump in every week and do a little bit of work. All you got to do is a little bit of work on a consistent basis, and you will learn watercolor. Watercolor is not that difficult. It's just a matter of practicing it every week a little bit here and there. You do a little bit of drawing, a little bit of painting, a little bit of drawing, a little bit of painting. You keep working both of those avenues, painting and drawing. And even if you're starting out with stick figures, that's fine. Draw stick figures, you know, that's fine. I started out with stick figures like everybody else. Keep, you know, practicing your drawing, and then you get in and you practice your painting. You practice these fun techniques like we're doing here, and these methods of learning how to kind of use the brush and being able to control your washes, control how much paint and water is in your brush, the water to paint ratio as we call it. And you can imagine it really adds up to great dividends. And you also have, you know, when you start bumping up to larger brushes like this, when you're painting, that can really make a big difference too. If you go in and you don't check off some water on a large brush like this, and you go in and you grab some water and paint, that looks like a good wash. It's going to be pretty light. But if you want a rich, beautiful, dark, exciting color, you got to take the brush, rinse it off, check off some water, right? Like that. Get your colors. Look how good that looks. Too much water, and you get that a lot. I'll zoom out a little bit here. So too much water a lot of times. This is a good middle tone, a middle tonal value, but if you don't rinse off and check off your water, you won't be able to get these dark, rich colors like this. And that's what I want you to be able to do, is be able to get these dark, rich colors, these exciting, beautiful colors in your watercolors, in your paintings. Okay? All right, so I'm going to sign out here. I'm just doing some fun here. Once I get painting, I have a great time and I just lose myself in it. I want you to do the same thing too. You lose sense of time and all the things you forget about, the whole gamut of worries and problems and cares and concerns in the world. You forget all about that. You just get in and do your work on your watercolors. You have a great time having fun with everything, the paints, the water, the brushes, all the good stuff, you know, with watercolor. So come back, join me again in the near future. Again, if you want to keep following my channel, you just hit the subscribe button below on the right, and we'll continue to work together, and everyone will all have a great time with watercolors, and we'll get better and better all the time. That's the main theme of my channel. You'll always get better and better as long as you're sticking with us here week after week, month after month, and year after year. So we'll see you on the next video. Thanks again for watching, and everybody happy painting and enjoy the journey.